Hi, and welcome to episode 16 of The More You Nole, a podcast about Florida State University. I'm your host, Mike, Director of Social Media for Florida State's Office of Admissions. Thanks for downloading this week's episode. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and wherever else you can download podcasts. You can also find prior episodes of the show on our YouTube channel, as well as our website, admissions.fsu.edu/podcast. Before we get into this week's interview, I have a bit of news. Our application for 2021 admission is now open. Students can submit an application right on our website or through either the Common App or Coalition application. We do not have a preference and encourage students to pick whichever application best meets their needs. Just please don't submit multiple applications. You can learn more about the application process on the newly revamped first year pages of our website, admissions.fsu.edu. This week's guests hail from Florida State University International Programs. Hannah Meister is an events coordinator for international programs, and Brooke, Brennan, and Quentin England are two current FSU students who participated in study abroad experiences. We discuss the numerous study abroad programs FSU offers from big to small, and the experiences Brooke and Quentin had during their studies. We also provide some advice on how to get the most out of a study abroad experience. And now, on to the interview. All right, well, I'm here with three guests today from Florida State International Programs. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and let's start with Hannah.
Hey, y'all. My name is Hannah Meister. I am the program coordinator for events and training for international programs, which means I get to plan events and supervise our IP ambassador staff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke. I am from Chicago, and right now I am a senior studying media communications, and I spent my first year abroad in Valencia, Spain.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quentin England from England. I am a rising senior studying criminology at Florida State University, and I'm also an IP ambassador, and I studied abroad at FSU London in the fall of 2017, spring of 2018, and summer of 2018.
So just to get started today, I've got a question for our students first. I always like to know, why did you decide to attend Florida State? And I'll start with Quentin.
I always wanted to attend just a US university. It wasn't specifically Florida State. That's kind of where I ended up. But I did end up at Florida State because of FSU London, actually. They have some great staff over there who come and help recruit British students. So I was already looking at studying in the US just because of the different education systems, and I kind of preferred the US system to the British system. But what really sealed the deal is that I could do the first year abroad program through international programs and start my education at London. And so I think my mum was pretty happy with that because it meant that I wasn't going to the US at 18, but I was going at 19. She could kind of have this gap year, so to speak, where I'd be in London, which is not too far from home, but not 4,000 miles away across the other side of the pond. So I think doing the first year program and using FSU London as a resource was wonderful. And that's why I'm at Florida State.
Great. What about you, Brooke?
So growing up, my dad was a diehard Seminoles fan. So I grew up watching Seminoles sports, and kind of when college came around to choose, I visited Florida State. I fell in love. And then I actually had the opportunity to meet with the international program staff on my visit. And they introduced me to the first year abroad program. So that was kind of what sealed the deal for me choosing Florida State University, was that I got to study abroad for an entire year, which is a dream come true for a lot of college students. And then from there, all the amazing programs that Florida State offered really drew me to choose Florida State.
Since you guys did your first years abroad, what was the transition like to the main campus? And was there something about Florida State that surprised you once you got here? And let's start with Brooke this time.
So before I did my first year abroad, I did a summer C session. So I had about a 6-week intro to Florida State. I got to know the campus a little bit. But when I returned back from my first year abroad program, I was amazed at how beautiful not only the campus was, but also how small the campus is. It's a very small world, even though there's 40,000 some students that go here. So I was just amazed at all the opportunities that we had to be able to get involved. International programs did a really good job bridging that gap, giving us a lot of opportunities, clubs, organizations to get involved with. So coming back, that was kind of a really awesome thing to be able to now get involved on campus.
And for me, I think one thing that international programs do a good job at is fostering friendships while studying abroad. So unlike Brooke, I hadn't actually been to Florida State's main campus before going there as a sophomore. And so when I got there, one thing I noticed was that I was seeing so many faces that I recognized from studying abroad. So I did my first year abroad. There was about 32 of us, but the study center has many, many more people than that doing various different programs. And when I got to main campus, it was really, really nice because I was in this kind of foreign world, but every day I could walk around campus, walk across Landis Green or something and see someone that I studied abroad with. And even just kind of giving them a wave and a smile made me feel more at home and I don't know, I kind of disagree with Brooke. I think the campus is pretty big in terms of what I'm used to anyway. And so it was nice because for me, it helped to make the campus feel small despite it being big because I had already fostered all these friendships while studying abroad.
So I want to move into a little bit, just kind of a discussion of international programs. First, Hannah, can you give us just a brief overview of all of international programs offerings? Because I know they are numerous.
Wow. To keep it brief, International Programs has been sending students abroad for over 60 years. So FSU has been in the study abroad business for quite a while. We have 4 what we call study center locations. So those are available to students year round during the fall, spring, and summer. It's where FSU owns and operates properties. So we have faculty and staff that live in those locations that operate those study centers. And those are located in London, England, Florence, Italy, Valencia, Spain, and Panama City in the Republic of Panama. But in addition to that, we have almost 20 different programs in numerous locations, more than just those 4 study center locations, where students are able to focus a little more closely on a specific major or a minor, maybe a language immersion program. So we really have a variety of academic programs that students can engage with. And then in addition to that, we also offer international internships for students who might be interested in gaining some work experience before they graduate.
So you can really do a ton. I know one of your most popular programs is the First Year Abroad program. It's very, very popular with students who are admitted through our Seminole Pathways admission program. Can you go into a little bit more detail on, we all call it FYA. Can you go into a little more detail on that?
Absolutely. So we actually offer 2 programs that are kind of similar in nature, and they both are available to students who are admitted through the Pathways option. So we have what's called the First Semester Abroad program, or FSA, and then also the FYA program, or First Year Abroad. So this is an opportunity for students to begin their college experience, begin their FSU career at 1 or 2 of those international study centers that I mentioned. So for the First Semester Abroad program, students will be starting their first semester as an FSU student at one of those study center locations. And then with the FYA program, you are spending your first fall, spring, and summer, like both Brooke and Quentin did, at up to 2 of our international study centers. So Brooke and Quentin are a little unique in that they didn't move for the summer, but many students who participate in the FYA program will spend their fall and spring in one location and then choose to move locations for the summer. So you're not only getting to start your college experience in one foreign country, but actually have the opportunity to experience 2 different countries and cultures before joining us here in Tallahassee.
That's great. You can really rack up those passport stamps quick. So what goes into preparing students for study abroad?
So international programs is available through the entire pre-departure process. So helping students through the application process, meeting with our financial aid advisor, meeting with our academic advisor. So really making sure that students are taking the courses that they need to be taking, that they're going to have an impactful experience that's going to count towards their graduation and things like that. But also with financial aid and scholarships, and making sure that students are able to have this experience in a financially responsible way, and in a way that really supports them and their goals. And then right before you before you depart for this program, once you've already picked your program, you've paid your commitment fees, you're ready to go, we also have what we call pre-departure orientations. So these are opportunities to maybe meet some of the students that are going to be on your program, get to meet your program leader or maybe some of the faculty or staff. And these look a little different depending on the program that you're going on. So our faculty-led programs are actually developed and led by FSU faculty members that are mostly from our Tallahassee campus, and then they go to another location and teach over the summer. But for like our FYA and our FSA students, we have what we call PreDepart, which is essentially our own orientation. So those students that will be starting their FSU experience abroad come to Tallahassee and get to meet our staff, get to meet the other students they'll be studying abroad with, and spend a couple of days with us really getting to know international programs and kind of what to expect once they get on the ground in their study center location. And then once they arrive, they have another on-site orientation. So we really like to make sure that our students know what to expect when they get there, and then kind of how to get around and navigate once they arrive in their study location.
That's great. So tons of support, both before you get there, when you get there, when you get back, really support from all around. And I know you also offer financial support, both for students who are looking to study abroad and for some of our students who do exceptionally well while they study abroad. Can you tell our listeners a bit about that?
Absolutely. So International Programs offers over $200,000 in scholarships annually. So those scholarships are available for a number of different things. They're available for specific programs, specific locations. They're based on merit, based on language, based on a number of different things. And you can find all that information on our website to see all the different scholarships we offer. But then specifically for first year abroad, for our out-of-state students who choose to participate in this first year abroad program, if you maintain a 3.0 GPA during your entire study abroad experience, you're actually eligible to earn an in-state tuition waiver, which means that even though you're an out-of-state student, if you maintain that 3.0, when you return to Tallahassee, you'll be paying what an in-state student would pay. So it's a huge value for those students, not only to get to experience that first year abroad, really get to engage in a different culture, learn a different culture and way of life in a different community, but then also to return to Tallahassee and be able to pay what an in-state student pays. It's just a huge value return for those out-of-state students.
Yeah, and if anyone is curious, I've got the numbers pulled up right here in my notes. A full year, so that's 30 semester hours of credit over fall and spring, 15 per semester. For Florida residents, it's about $6,500, and for non-Florida residents, it's about $21,700. So it's a huge difference in fees that you would be paying for those remaining years on campus if you complete first year abroad with that 3.0. I know it's a thing that makes that program very popular with out-of-state students. You also mentioned that there are internship opportunities available through study abroad. Can you explain some of those to our listeners?
Sure. So for our students who are interested in getting some work experience before they graduate, or maybe they've already completed many of their credits that they need to graduate, internships are a great option if you are still looking for that international experience, but not necessarily looking to take classes for credit. So these international internships are available during the fall, spring, and summer in those 4 study center locations that I mentioned. And then in the summer, they're also available in Sydney, Australia. So we have 5 different locations that you are able to intern. We have an internship coordinator in our office who works one-on-one with students and then also with each of those locations to come up with a list of organizations, businesses, different places that would be willing to accept an intern. And so working with that internship coordinator really allows the student to find an experience that they are interested in having. So we are looking to match them in locations where the industry that they're interested in working in, or maybe a field that they're interested in learning more about, making sure that there's actually an internship opportunity available for those students. And so once a student finds an internship and they've interviewed and they've been hired by whatever organization it is that is looking for an intern, they are then immersed into that work culture in whatever country they choose to study in or to intern in. So if you're one of our 4 study center locations, you'll be able to participate in everything that the study center has to offer. So whether that is the excursions that are offered, maybe some group meals, things like that, you will be having that same study experience, but instead of going to class every day, you're going to work. And in some of those locations, you also are able to take a class. So for example, if you choose to intern in Italy, you could go to work every day and then also take an Italian class with the study center. So you have a little bit of flexibility there in what you're interested in doing. But it's really mostly about just getting that international work experience before you graduate to have that global perspective as you enter the job market.
All right, so now I want to get into some questions about the international programs experience. So I guess this first one was going to be for both students, but knowing that Quentin is from England, I think this one's more specifically for Brooke. I'm curious to know if you traveled abroad before or if your international programs experience was your first time traveling abroad. And either way, what was it like? Just the travel aspect and getting to the study center?
Right. So when I went to Spain, that was my first time out of the country. I had done some traveling around the United States, but when I went to go abroad, I really wanted something new, something different, experience new cultures. So when I went to Spain, my first time out of the country, my first international flight, and I was not ready for a 9-hour flight, but it was so worth it. So once we got there, really good at experiencing the new culture. IP does a great job integrating you and kind of preparing you for what's to come. And then once you're studying abroad, you actually are able to do independent travel on the weekends. So me, my friends, and my roommates, we would all travel around on the weekends. So that was probably my favorite part, was being able to experience new cultures of new countries that I've never been to. Maybe some of them I haven't even learned much about before I visited, but it was really great to be able to be in Europe, experience the European culture, and while I was there, get to travel and experience the cultures firsthand. That was probably my favorite part of the whole first year abroad experience.
That's great. So this one is really for both of our students. What was that preparation process like from your end? What was that experience like?
Yeah, my preparation was, I would say it's a little bit different than most students are going to go through. For me, it was more about preparing for the United States, kind of at the other end of the first year abroad. So, I did have to take the SAT exam from home, from England. I was surprised they offer that here, but yeah, I had to take that. That was kind of the most preparation I had to do in terms of the first year abroad program. But then there was lots of preparation in terms of picking classes and trying to familiarize myself with FSU's campus from 4,000 miles away. But it was great. And I've had such an amazing time, both through studying abroad, working with international programs, and just on campus as a whole.
Yeah, so my preparation was a little bit different than Quentin's. When I signed up to do first year abroad, I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. I was just like, yay, study abroad, here we go. So to kind of prepare to get ready for European culture, I took some Spanish in high school. So that summer before, I really started practicing my Spanish to be able to help with that language barrier when we got there. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and travel videos, how to travel, cool places to go, what you should do when you're abroad to really experience those cultures and histories of where we were going. And then for the more academic aspect, it was a lot of meetings with advisors. I met with our financial aid advisor a few times before I went. So that was extremely helpful for the money aspect of things. And then our academic advisors worked personally with me to get ready for all these classes, because you could take all of your general education courses when you're abroad at the 4 study center locations. So really just meeting with them, understanding what to do, and then just kind of mentally preparing, like, this is going to be a big change, and how can I become more accustomed to where I'm going to.
So when you guys first got to your study centers, what did you think of them? What are they like? Because I know they're all pretty unique, like the buildings themselves and the accommodations. How would you describe them to a prospective student?
Whoa, it's like a dream come true when you go to these places. At least in Valencia, it's a giant yellow building behind the Serrano Towers, so you really can't miss it. You walk in and it matches the culture, so it's very historical. There are old buildings or old pieces of walls and the ruins in the Valencia Study Center. You go in and you live in apartments, and they are so much nicer than what I could have ever hoped for. It beats a dorm any day as well. So it was just incredibly beautiful. And I didn't really, again, have any expectations. I just kind of saw the pictures on the internet and what they showed us at PreDepart. And so when I got there, I was completely in awe of how beautiful the study centers were and how beautiful the cities were that we got to stay in. And when I was there, I actually got to visit the study centers in London and Florence. And I can say that they are just as beautiful, and completely blown away by how prepared all the study centers are for the students to come into.
So FSU London's study centre is equally as beautiful, and it's right in the heart of the city, only a short walk away from Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square, all these really, really cool places to go and places to see. And just to kind of give an example of how cool of a place you're living in, I'm not sure if any of the listeners are fans of The Crown on Netflix, but they actually recorded a scene on the street at FSU London, literally opposite where FSU London is situated. They recorded a scene for the crown. So that's just kind of the central location that you're in, and the area that you're living in. Bloomsbury is beautiful and very, very kind of upmarket. I'm jealous, to be honest with you. I'm jealous.
And it's really centrally located. I haven't been to the study center, but I've been to London and I know where it is. And it's basically like right in the heart of the city. You're just like right near the Oxford Circus tube station, and you can get to almost anywhere in the whole city from there. It's really crazy what a prime location it's in. So this one's definitely just for Brooke, since Quentin is from England. I'm wondering if you experienced any culture shock when you went to Valencia and what that was like.
Yeah, there's definitely the initial culture shock. They take a siesta and they eat dinner at 10 p.m. and it's a lot of things that were different. We had a lot of guidance from the staff at the study center to kind of say, here's what's culturally happening in Valencia, and here's why, and here's the history of it. So they really briefed us and prepped us on what to expect. But when you get there, it is an initial culture shock. The European lifestyle, their values are different than they are in America. So kind of getting there and being able to experience it firsthand and to speak with locals gave me that further understanding that I needed. Also, your first semester that we were there, we took a cultural perspectives class. So at the end of every week, we would write papers about reflections of culture shock that we were experiencing. And our teacher kind of gave us ways, how to cope if you have any of that, or if you're homesick. So it was a really gradual process into it, but definitely at first it was a big shock coming from America over to Europe, but I enjoyed it so much while I was there.
That's great. And we'll start with Quentin on this next one. What were some of your favorite classes that you took through the study abroad program?
One instantly stands out to me, and that's public speaking. So I was very, very shy, actually, huge introvert before I got to FSU London. And then, as Brooke was saying earlier, what you do at these, or was it Hannah? What they were saying is that at these study centers, you do a lot of your general education classes. So one of the first classes I took was public speaking. And it's extremely unique and different than taking public speaking at Florida State, because what the professor makes you do is actually go around London and give speeches in different places. So, for example, I had to go out and give a speech on the Tube, which is the subway. I had to go out and give a speech on the steps of the National Art Gallery in London, in Trafalgar Square, and go to a place called Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. Speaker's Corner is this place where on Sundays, anyone can just come and speak about almost anything that they want. And you normally stand on like a classic little soapbox kind of thing. And so we even had to go there and stand on these boxes and give speeches, and people come and heckle you and tell you how you're wrong and all this stuff. And it was challenging, but very, very, very unique. And I think that that's one of those great experiences that you can only get through studying abroad, right? We don't have the subway at Florida State. So no matter which way you look at it, there's definitely some uniqueness to studying abroad. And I have so many favorite classes, but that was definitely top of the list.
This is a hard question because I absolutely loved every course that I took there. Throughout all of international programs, we really try to use the city as the classroom. So mostly every class, we would go on little field trips around the city to learn in person instead of just reading it from a textbook. Probably my favorite group of classes were my Spanish language classes. We would go to different cafes and speak with locals, talk to store owners, and go on scavenger hunts around the city to further ingrain the language and learn firsthand more conversational Spanish. So I love that. My second favorite class, I would say, was business communications class. With this one, it was cool to learn business aspects, but in the real world. So probably my favorite classroom memory was in business communications class. Our teacher told us, all right, everyone come to class dressed in your pajamas. So we all show up to class in our pajamas, and he says, pick a name of a store out of a hat. So you and your partner pick a name out of the store of a hat, and they're all designer, nice, fancy, high-end stores around Valencia. And he says, you're going to go into these stores and see how you're treated dressed as an American in your pajamas. And so that was it was just cool field trips that we got to do like that every single day of class. So I loved every class I took in Valencia, and just all the opportunities that we had to go to the local universities and use their equipment for classes like biology and math made me really enjoy going to class every day.
That's great. So I know you guys have mentioned you go on a lot of field trips for class purposes, but I know you also have the opportunity to go on some longer excursions. What kind of excursions were you able to go on through your study abroad experience?
So Every semester we had about one or two trips. So in Spain, we got to go up north on the border of France and Spain and hike in the Pyrenees Mountains. We got to go down south to the Andalusia region. We would go to Madrid and Barcelona. And when we were here, it would be a 3 to 4 day trip with your whole program, all of your professors, everyone was there. You would travel. They would have the day planned out for you. So museums, you would go to cultural dinners. In Madrid, we went to flamenco dances. So it'd be a really cool way to see other parts of Spain that, you always have wanted to visit and be able to have that firsthand cultural experience with your entire program. And those were also some of my favorite memories for being on these trips with everyone, seeing the culture firsthand, going to the Prado Museum. We got to go to the Barcelona football stadium. It was just a really cool way to see more of the country that you're living in.
One thing that FSU IP does really, really well with their excursions is that there's a nice balance between kind of in-city excursions, but ones that take you out and about as well. So, for example, there'll be day excursions. In London, we got to go to places like the Royal Kew Gardens, which is a huge botanical garden. It's beautiful. We got to go on the Harry Potter Studios tours, which was pretty cool. See all the behind the scenes stuff there. And Windsor Castle, for example, we went to Windsor Castle just a few months before Harry and Meghan got married. So that was really cool to see as well. But all of these day trips are then supplemented by weekend long trips. And when you go and study at FSU London, you'll actually get to go to places like Scotland and Wales as well. So not just staying within England. So they take you to Edinburgh in Scotland, and there's a day trip up to St Andrews, which is where obviously the very famous St Andrews golf course is. We went to Cornwall. We learned to surf in Cornwall. Certainly as a British person, I can tell you that I don't get to surf very much. So going to Cornwall for the weekend and learning to surf was definitely a great experience as well. Cold, but very fun. And you get to go to Wales as well and see all the beautiful castles and the kind of rural countryside of Wales as well. So, and we went to Yorkshire, which is actually where I'm from. We went there for a weekend, and you get to see the old city of York, which is beautiful as well. So lots of different excursions, all of which you definitely don't want to miss.
So what was something that you guys learned outside the classroom, like maybe on one of these excursions that you thought was particularly insightful?
This is a big question because when you're in and outside the classroom, I felt like study abroad was such a learning experience. But I would say one thing personally that I kind of took away from a lot of traveling and meeting new people was not to have preconceived notions. When you're traveling to a new place or maybe trying a new food or something, you have this idea before, and most of the time those ideas were proven wrong. So I always say don't come in with any preconceived notions, have a very open mindset, but also kind of do your research so you have an idea, but go in, be ready to try everything. Don't say no to any opportunity and just be very open-minded, because everything that you can learn from the world, the people you'll meet, the experiences that you share with the people you travel with, those are one of the biggest things that happen outside the classroom.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is really, really difficult for me because, most of the places that we went to for my classes, I'd kind of already got a preconceived notion of which Brooke was saying. But I definitely did learn something. I mean, with politics, we actually went to go and sit in the House of Commons for a debate and learn about all the history of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. And that was really cool. With the same politics class, we got to go on a tour of London's financial district. Which I don't believe I had been to before. But that was really interesting, learning about how London is one of the central hubs in Europe for kind of, I guess, financial stuff. And so that was really interesting as well. So I definitely learned more about my own country than I thought I knew. Like there were so many things that I thought I knew, but until FSU IP takes you on these experiences and you kind of see the behind the things that you, as a British person, I would just normally overlook, right? Like I don't think about these niche and these particular things, but FSU IP does a really, really good job, both on the excursions and kind of the in-class excursions that the professors take you on as well. They're really, really good at pointing out, hey, did you know that this person lived here? Or, hey, did you know that the FSU London Study Centre used to be owned by this really, really, really rich family and all that kind of stuff. So you learn a lot about history. We've got some very passionate professors and professors and staff at FSU London that know a lot about history. And so it was really interesting learning the history of London, the history of the study centre, and all that kind of stuff.
That's great. So now I want to move into our lightning round. I call it the lightning round. It doesn't really move any faster than the rest of the show. So normally I ask all these questions kind of about Florida State. You'll understand once I ask them. But for this group, I kind of want to refocus them and ask them about your study centers. So I guess for Hannah, you can answer these regarding like local Tallahassee. But for Brooke and Quentin, let's get them about their study centers. So my first question is, what's your favorite thing about Florida State? / your study center?
I would have to say that my favorite thing about Florida State is just the variety of experiences that you can have and the variety of people you can meet and the variety of things that you can get involved in. I think just the diversity that you can experience on campus and in Tallahassee is pretty great for a smaller southern city.
That's great. Okay, so let's go to Brooke. And I guess if you want to answer this about the main campus and your study center, that's actually probably the best way to do it.
I would say my favorite thing about the Valencia Study Center is how much they pushed us outside of our comfort zone. So whether this was in the classroom, whether this was our professors getting to know us and playing soccer on Tuesdays, traveling on the weekends, it really was a push out of our comfort zone, being able to learn so much about the world, so much in our classes, but also so much about ourselves. I think it really helped shape the rest of my college experience. And then I agree with Hannah. My favorite part about being on campus is just the diversity of everything on campus. All the programs, all the clubs, all the organizations that you can get involved with each and every day has really made Florida State somewhere that I look forward to and that I love going to.
I think my favorite thing about FSU London is how much of an emphasis is placed on travel. So, outside of all of these great excursions that we've been talking about, the study center staff really push you to do individual exploration and individual travel as well. So I know that a lot of my friends would, for example, finish class on a Thursday night and take a train and be in Paris within 2 hours and having dinner in front of the Eiffel Tower. And it's just kind of unique and special things like this. You can go and visit the rest of Europe. London is a wonderful hub. And you can find really, really cheap tickets, whether it be plane, train, whatever it is. You can get to some beautiful places in Europe really, really easily and really cheaply as well. And the study center staff, they host a workshop on traveling to other places in Europe. And so to anyone who does study abroad, my advice would be make use of your weekends, go out and do some individual exploration as well. And my favorite thing about main campus, I think, is I agree with the diversity, but my favorite part is the spirit and the passion that the people have for the school. The culture between American and British people is a little bit different. And although I haven't been to a British university, my brother's there now. And he's even said to me, I'm jealous of the kind of the spirit that your school has for it, just itself and the symbol and just what it means to be a student at Florida State University. I think every student is prideful that they're at the school. And for whatever reason, British people just don't seem to have that same passion about going to university and just being able to call myself a Seminole. I'm super proud of that and super passionate. And like Brooke said, I just love getting up in the morning and being able to go to school. It actually gets me excited in the morning. And that's definitely something that the British and the Americans have are different between the two cultures.
Great. Okay, so on to our next lightning round question. So it's lunchtime and you're looking for some good food. I want to know, what's the best place to eat, both like near your study center and then also when you're around the main campus?
If I could go back to Valencia and have one meal, I would go to San Tommaso. It's like a little Italian. They have pasta. They have great lunch specials. They take your cheques. It was my favorite place. And I dream about going back to have one more meal in San Tommaso. If I had to pick a place locally in Tallahassee that I would recommend to go get lunch at, that would be so hard to pick one place in Tallahassee. I would say La Masa in Tallahassee. I love Asian types of foods and it's close to campus. You can walk. So those would be my two choices.
I think my two choices, I'll start it on the flip side. I'll start with main campus. I'm going to agree with Brooke here, kind of take the cheap route and say Little Masa. I live in College Town. I don't have a car. So a lot of the time I'm kind of walking everywhere. But Little Massa and all of the eateries in College Town are great as well. So definitely recommend those. And for the main campus, I'm going to have to say Nando's. Some of you guys might have heard of Nando's, kind of a cheap answer, but Nando's is fantastic. It's kind of spicy chicken and all that. I really don't know how to describe it. If you haven't heard of Nando's, look up Nando's. It's wonderful. I used to go there all the time with my friends. They'd always say to me, "Oh, Quentin, we've got to go to Nando's again." And, it's just fantastic. So, yeah.
And what about you, Hannah?
If I was going to recommend a place to grab lunch in Tallahassee, a little bit further from campus, but not too far, I would probably have to recommend Mayuri. It is a really great Indian buffet restaurant, or they have the buffet during lunch, and then you can get some more individual meals at dinner. They recently moved into a bigger space, so it's a really, really great restaurant here in Tallahassee. And if I was back in London, I cannot remember the name of it. It's been a couple summers since I studied in London, but there's a fish and chip shop right across the street from the British Museum, right down the street from the study center. And that was probably the best meal that I had while I was in London.
Those are good choices. I'm going to have to write down the one from Valencia. I'm actually going there next summer, so I'll probably hit you up for some more recommendations, Brooke. My next question is just how have you guys been keeping yourselves occupied during the quarantine, social distancing? What have you been doing to keep yourselves occupied?
So since quarantine, I got very blessed that my internship was not canceled. So I've been working in Sarasota all summer, thankfully. When quarantine first started on Friday the 13th, I traveled to Peru. On Sunday the 15th, the country shut down. So I spent my first 2 weeks of our American quarantine in Peru. And then once I came back, I was in Chicago for a few weeks. So doing then, finishing out school, getting to spend a lot of quality time with my family. It was still snowing in Chicago, so it was just kind of a lot of indoor things. And now being in Florida, socially distancing, going to the beach, working out again, cooking, and then again, just spending a lot of time with family and trying, less time on my phone and more time watching videos on YouTube and reading books. And socially distancing has kind of prevented a lot of things from going out and about. So it's been nice to spend more time at home with family.
Like Brooke, I've actually been very lucky in that I've been able to do an internship this summer as well. I was actually originally going to be doing an internship this summer through FSU IP. I was going to be going back to the London Study Centre for the summer, but when kind of quarantine happened, all those programs got cancelled, unfortunately. But the company were very nice enough to kind of keep me on. So I've been working remotely from home since April for a company in London that kind of helps children to read. And so I've been working with them, helping them with their marketing. And outside of that, I've been watching a lot of Disney Plus. I'm currently working my way through the entire Star Wars trilogy. So from start to finish, including like all the animated shows and stuff. So I'm really enjoying doing that. And like Brooke said, just spending quality time with family. It's not something I get to do as much as I would like, obviously, because, during the school year, I'm over across in the United States. So when I come home, it is very important to me to spend time with friends and family, while respecting social distancing and all that stuff, to spend what time I have with them.
I have been spending my period of quarantining, obviously working from home, which has been really interesting, cutting down on that commute time to FSU's campus. Now I just commute upstairs to my office. So that's been really interesting and unique. I've been spending a lot of quality time with my cat. He also loves coming to work. He usually is interrupting these Zoom meetings and things. But outside of work, I have been spending a lot more time cooking, which has been really fun. Getting to kind of experiment with some other things. I recently made homemade pasta for the first time. So just trying some fun, unique things that have been a good way to spend my quarantine.
That's good. I've perfected my chocolate chip cookie recipe over this quarantine. Personally, it's perfect now. I love it. Okay, so my last question, and we'll start with Hannah on this one. And again, I want to give this an IP twist. If you could only give our incoming students who are doing study abroad one piece of advice, what would it be?
So for students who are starting at Florida State and thinking about studying abroad, I would definitely recommend just start the process early. Start learning as much as you can early. Come into our office or set up a Zoom meeting, whatever that looks like. Just communicate with our office, get in touch with our financial aid coordinator, talk to our academic advisor. just plan ahead. It will make your experience much more seamless, and especially meeting with our financial aid coordinator, figuring out what scholarships are available, which ones you can apply to, what sources of funding are out there. It will just make for, I think, a much more seamless experience while you are trying to figure out studying abroad.
My one piece of advice to anyone who's thinking about studying abroad or who's about to study abroad is say yes. So say yes to taking the extra class. Say yes to going on that trip. Say yes to going on the cultural excursion. Say yes to everything, because every day when you're abroad is an opportunity. If you're playing with the idea of studying abroad, I couldn't tell you enough times that it is the most impactful opportunity that you may be able to have as a college student. And when you're there, take full advantage of your professors. They know all the best restaurants and all the secrets around the city. Get to really know the staff that works there. Get to know the people that you're in the classes with, and always say yes, because you don't want to miss out on an opportunity, because every day there's something new when you're studying abroad.
Brooke kind of stole my thunder, so I'm going to try and think of something else. But going along, kind of building off of what Hannah and Brooke have said, I would say ask questions. So as well as saying yes to all the opportunities, because as easy as it is to stay in bed instead of getting on the bus at 6 a.m. to go to Cornwall, you're only going to have that opportunity once. You're not going to have many opportunities to kind of have this experience in your life, to go and live and study abroad whilst having all these fun activities. So definitely say yes and take advantage of everything, but ask questions as well, because there's so much out there that you're not going to notice unless you ask questions. So like Brooke said, make use of your staff, make use of your professors, ask them, where did you get lunch yesterday? Like, where would you recommend I can go to have a quiet place to study? What's the best museum in town? All these kind of questions, because I can only speak for London, obviously, but London is huge, right? I didn't even cover it in the year that I was there, and I'm from England. So, trust me when I say that London is huge, and you're not going to be able to cover it all. So what you need to do is make use of the time that you have there and ask questions to find the most interesting, secret, and best places to go.
And I think that's so important that you said ask questions, because your study abroad is also a big learning experience, and you want to be able to learn as much as you can because you're with such knowledgeable people as well. So I think that's so important that you said ask questions.
That's some great advice from our panel today. Brooke, Quentin, and Hannah, thank you guys so much for being here, and go Noles.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having us.
Thanks again to Hannah, Brooke, and Quentin for their time. If you'd like to learn more about FSU international programs, check out international.fsu.edu and follow @FSUIP on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you want even more study abroad stories, you can also subscribe to the newly launched Noles Abroad podcast at nolesabroad.international.fsu.edu. Season 1 ends this week, so now is the perfect time to catch up. If you've been enjoying the show, we'd really appreciate you leaving us a rating, review, or recommendation on iTunes or whichever podcast app you use. Word of mouth is also a huge help for us as well, so please share the show with any of your friends or family members who you think may enjoy it. If you have any questions or feedback on the show, please send them to us on social media. We are at FSU Admissions on Twitter and Facebook, and at FSU.admissions on Instagram. You can also email questions or feedback on the show to admissions@fsu.edu, including the word podcast in the subject line. As always, our theme music is the world-renowned Florida State University Marching Chiefs, recordings courtesy of Mark Records, Clarence, New York, markcustom.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or in your podcast app of choice. Thanks again for listening, and go Noles.